Bob Pascal with a long-delayed edition of Bob's Bullpen. For those of you who may have seen us before, we had about an 8-year run on Channel 7. We haven't been on the last 2 or 3 years because of accommodation factors, but we're looking forward and we're back on. I'd like to introduce the two guys that are going to be working with me tonight. Ryan Leighton to my left. Ryan is a writer for the Boothbay Register, the ace reporter for the Boothbay Register, and he's going to be reporting on local sports each week and engage in discussions with regard to local sports. And we want to try to put a little bit more of an emphasis on local sports than we have done in the past. On my right, Professor Nickerson. Tom was with me for a couple of years, and Tom is great, and he's going to try to have a feature each week. Sometimes it's a little off-center, but that's great, and we'll be able to talk about that. We are televising from a studio which is being built or rebuilt. How would you put it, John? Here at the Y, and incidentally, Channel 7 is very, very thankful of the Y for providing this space for us and being so cooperative. The studio is not quite finished yet. They're still working on it. John Treese, the station manager, is here across from me. And John, why don't you tell the people what's going on? Would that be appropriate?
Sure, let me jump in there.
Go ahead.
There. So, as he's mentioned, renovations, just had painting majorly done all around here. So we'll get a little paint on the green screen. So the green screen isn't quite ready for this show. We're really pushing it to get Bob's Bullpen happening this week before the Patriots' big game. So a lot of cleaning happened. It's not really set, but we'll keep it going and get even better, and hopefully have a better picture of the studio, and you guys will be good to go, right? Let me
ask you one more question while you're here, John. You said that when we were setting this thing up that you wanted to be more digitally available to the people here in town. What does that mean?
We will be doing more of that. We'll have a Facebook account for Bob's Bullpen and set up maybe a Twitter feed so you can ask questions over email, Facebook, Twitter, whatever. So that'll be happening. We'll get that out to people maybe next time. So be looking for that. In the meantime, if you see Bob anywhere, harass him and let him know what you thought about tonight's show.
And we'd like to know what people want to see and what's been good and what's been bad about what we do, John.
From the past and from the future. What do people want to see, I guess?
And if we're going to do more of an emphasis on local sports, we should start out with Ryan. He's going to tell us what's going on.
Sure, I'd love to. If you don't know me already, my name is Ryan Leighton. I have lived here all my life, and I work at the Boothbay Register. I cover local sports. I participated in sports back in high school. I did a lot of running, and I'm going to be looking at this camera now on. And I also do a lot of snowboarding. A lot of individual sports, some of the more extreme stuff. I love climbing mountains, doing all that stuff. Incidentally, I met Bob at the holiday party. I had a beer with him, and this is why I'm here now. And we engaged in some great discourse, and I enjoy what we have to talk about. And I look forward to many topics and debates going on in this show.
And of course, you're being modest. You have a journalism degree from the University of Maine.
I did. I went to the University of Maine. I got my degree in journalism, and thankfully, I got a job in the newspaper industry. That's a job that's hard to come by, with newspapers dying at a daily rate. Yeah. So that's a sad thing all in itself, but I'm thankful I have a job here. I'm thankful to be in a community that celebrates sports and has a very good competitive team. So
we thought this would work very well because you're with it and young and knowledgeable, and I was always referred to as an old fogey, to which I plead guilty, so we thought this would work pretty good.
I like that, and Bob has given me a nickname called Scoop Leighton, because I think I have the scoop, and I'm going to give him a nickname. How about Your Honor? Does that work? We'll try.
That brings back bad memories, because when I did say, I was a judge in Missouri, but you know, they used to make so much fun of my powdered wig.
Oh, is that right? Did you have a little mole too?
I know they were doing it, but whatever.
Okay.
But what's going on in local sports?
I can tell you that. We had a busy week in local sports. The Boothbay boys and girls varsity basketball teams faced 3 different teams this week. It was Monmouth Academy, Oak Hill, and Mount Abram. And the boys actually defeated Mount Abram today, this afternoon. And let's see, they defeated them 42-38, I think.
And because some people are going to be watching that during the week, when you say today, we're shooting this on Saturday.
We're shooting this on Saturday.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, that was wrong. That was the girls' score. But yeah, the boys just defeated the number 9 seeded Roadrunners from Mount Abram this afternoon. They came away with a 65-46 win. Anthony DeMoro, the captain, he led all scorers with 20 points, followed by Johnny Hepburn with 17 points. On Thursday, the Boothbay Seahawks, they defeated Oak Hill Raiders in a blowout win, 71-47. And they also beat Monmouth on Tuesday night, 59-46. The boys have improved their record to 12-1. They are a very good team this year, and they're now tied for first place behind Waynfleet. And they have not, there's only one team left in the Western Class C Conference that's undefeated, and that's Dirigo. And that's been a hugely anticipated game. And they're going to be actually facing off against Dirigo Thursday night at home at Porter Memorial Gymnasium. So everyone in Seahawk Nation, get out there, because that's going to be a huge game.
I read the Portland newspaper rates the high school teams, both boys and girls. And of course, we're Class C. But for the first time last week, Boothbay was in the top 10 of the state of all classes.
That's huge.
So I can never remember that he had as much success as they've had in the past. So who's ever well, a lot of people are responsible for the success. I know we're lucky to have great coaches, but that's quite an accomplishment.
The boys team under I.J. Pinkham have always had a very strong team. And I'm also happy to say that with Tanner Grover as head coach as the Lady Seahawks, they have a championship caliber team as well. So it's good to see that Boothbay is kind of back on top as far as the Western Class C Conference. And as far as Western Class C, they don't get enough attention as the Portland Press gives to Class A, but basketball is still a huge sport in Maine, and still a huge sport in Boothbay. So I'll continue on with the Lady Seahawks, what they did this week. They were victorious in their 3 games as well. They defeated Mount Abram 42-38. They did not score any field goals in the fourth quarter, and they actually had a 13-point lead going into the fourth quarter, and they didn't score at all. So they narrowly defeated the Roadrunners 42-38. And then in the other 2 contests, the Lady Seahawks also won their games against Oak Hill 47-37. They're a Class B team, Oak Hill. And then they avenged their early season loss to Monmouth Mustangs 51-46 on Monday night. The girls improved their record to 11-2, and they will be playing at Lisbon Tuesday night. What is that? What's Tuesday night?
The 22nd?
22nd at 7 p.m. And the boys will be playing Lisbon Monday night, January 21st. And Lisbon, the girls are 4-8, so not as good as the Lady Seahawks are 11-2. And then the boys Lisbon team are 2-8, I think, 4-8. 2-8, I'm sorry.
I don't think you can overemphasize, Scoop, how lucky we are to have the 2 coaches that we have. Pinkham is absolutely iconic throughout the state, and what he's done, not just in wins and losses, but the way he handles the team, known for our sportsmanship in addition to everything else. And of course, Grover, who devoted to basketball, must be doing a terrific job. Grover is a basketball genius, and he has analyzed the game, and he has revitalized the program. And the Lady Seahawks were 12-6 last year. They got knocked out second round in the tournaments, and they've improved their record huge this time, 11-2, and they're in a 3-horse race right now with Waynfleet in Madison, and it's always a pleasure to watch the Lady Seahawks play, both Seahawks teams play. Well, they were really down 3 or 4 years ago, weren't they? They were. They were, and it all depends on who's coming through the ranks, but the boys Seahawks, they're led by Anthony DeMoro, who is a prolific scorer, and also John Hepburn. And one interesting thing I want to point out about the boys teams is that there are 3 sets of brothers on the boys team. We have Anthony DeMoro and then Joseph DeMoro as one set. Then we have the Simmons boys, and then we have the Hepburn boys. And the Hepburns and the DeMoros and Simmons all provide a lot of points. So that's a little recap on the boys, where they stand. As for the girls, they're led by tri-captains Sarah Karen, Alex Clark, and Allison Crocker. And on any given night, one of those girls can go off for double digits. And they're really fun to watch. And what's great about that is that Tanner has implemented a very
defensive pressure team. That's their main thing, is their defensive pressure. It's intense. Not only are they intense, but they're very versatile. We have one of the biggest physically imposing teams in the league right now. But let's say that one of those nights the bigs are off. We have versatile, pesky guards like Morgan Crocker and Abby McClellan that cause a lot of turnovers and make a lot of points in transition. So a lot of the points that that Boothbay racks up are in transition, and we're a force to be reckoned with this year.
So. They've done a great job.
Yeah. They've done a great job. Yeah.
What kind of support are they getting? They had good crowds at the games, Ryan?
The girls for years played to an empty gym, which was unfortunate. And over the years, now they're packing the house.
Good.
And it's great to see. During halftime shows, also, the elementary kids, they have Lauren Brown's Lady Dribblers, so they help also pack the house. But one thing I noticed, I watched a lot of Seahawks basketball about 10 years ago when they won the state championship. And back then, when my brother played, and even before that, when Adam Steers played, the whole town came to those games. It seemed like the standard of basketball was just there's a lot more emphasis on it about 10 years ago. But it's encouraging to see more crowds, more enthusiasm kind of trickling back into the program.
Even after all these years, I talked to IJ up at school. He still enjoys it, still gets a kick out of it, still does a great job. And then you're right about our new girls coach. So that's great.
Yeah.
What else is going on in with the kids' sports, Ryan?
Kids' sports, for a while there wasn't a swim team. There wasn't a high school swim team. So there are actually some Dolphin swim team swimmers swimming independently. And they've traveled around so far. I haven't kept the records yet, but they did compete up in Old Town against the Old Town City Canoes, I guess, and they did very well. A lot of them were first swims for a lot of people. A lot of them broke their own personal records. A lot of them got first, second place, and so they beat Old Town. And so that's encouraging to see that we have the Dolphin swim team back. And then we also have some independent wrestlers that I don't think have competed yet, but we're going to be catching up with them and hopefully having a couple of them come in for interviews. Nordic ski, yes, another good thing. Coach Nick Scott, he has brought a lot of attention to cross country in the last few years. They won a state championship in 2008, and since then he's been recruiting really fast runners. And I covered cross country back in the fall. Sophia Thayer, Chase Brown, they've had amazing careers as runners. And when they're in the off season, he does Nordic skiing. And they started that last year, and if you can remember, last year was a mild winter, and there was barely any snow, so they had barely any place to practice on. This year it's been a little more fortunate, and we got some snow, and they've been competing, and I can check back with them on their record as well, but they go off. We don't host any so far, any Nordic ski meets at Boothbay, but they all go off to compete somewhere else. And that's a very independent sport, but it keeps all those kids in shape for track in the springtime.
We had Nick on the show a number of years ago, and he strikes me as a very, very good coach. The kids love him. I know he's a good teacher over at the elementary school, too.
That's right.
So we're really lucky to have some of the coaches we have here at the high school and at the kids level.
For sure.
And some of these programs at the Y, the basketball leagues and so forth, do they help in, as far as developing future high school players?
I believe so. Right now, in the 7th and 8th grade, I believe 3 out of the 4 teams competing in the winter sports are headed to the championships, which is it's encouraging because we're reinforcing that program to start off earlier, and it's encouraging a future program for high school. And I think youth sports with Ed Crocker and at the Y here, there's a big emphasis on that. And so I'm glad that we live in a community that encourages those sports.
I've been refereeing for Ed in the Y leagues, and there's some adult participants as coaches that are great for the kids.
I think
both
so.
As far as knowledge of the game and the way the games are operated. So Ed deserves credit for that, as well as a lot of the adults who are doing the coaching and who've got involved in kids programs. We have our chief of police, Bob Hash, who's coached and been very active. Dan Welch, who's a principal at our high school, has been very active as coach. And these are all very, very good influences on the kids.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. I.J. Pinkham's been a staple of Boothbay basketball, and with Tanner Grover has such a great relationship with the girls. They all respect him. They all love the enthusiasm and knowledge he brings to the game. And I think with him as head coach, the sky's the limit as far as Boothbay Lady Seahawks goes.
They've also had good summer programs at the Y on basketball. IGA has always had a course or clinic, call it what you will, a week long, and there's some good summer programs up here at the Y that's preparing the kids. And boy, it's so good to have him active in things like that as opposed to other things.
I really think if you take a look in IJ's career, that he must have a record over all coaches in all classes as far as teams, games played.
We're talking about 35 years, Tom, something like that?
Well, 32, I think, something like that. But, they will go 2, 3, 4 games in the tournament, and I don't think there's a coach in the state that can equal that in their career.
Well, I can tell you that
Boothbay is there consistently.
From going up to high school, I can tell you that the kids really respond to him. They buy into what he's doing, and that's not easy in today's day and age to get kids to respond and to buy into a program. But our coaches have done that.
I did attend the first game down at Madomic today of the 7th grade championship. Unfortunately, the Boothbay boys lost to an excellent team from Belfast, but they overcome the odds on Thursday evening against Rockland, the team that had beaten them twice, and they handily defeated the Rockland team. And there is future in Boothbay basketball.
Now, you were going to, in future weeks, Ryan, you said that we might try to play some clips while we're on.
Yes. All the games that are going to be broadcast on Channel 7, we're going to be going through getting some highlight tapes and doing some highlights and featuring those on this show.
The other thought that we had is maybe that we could go out and cover some things that are going on during the week in town and then replay them as part of this show.
Yes.
Couple other people who have shown an interest, I think, might be appearing with us from time to time are Eddie Crocker, who we were just talking about, does a great job at the Y, and Dave Landry. Dave was on with me regularly for 4 or 5 years and is a great addition. So hopefully we'll have them on from time to time too as well, maybe some good guests. Good report. Anything else going on with the kids or with the high school?
Not that I can think of, but stay tuned for future episodes where we will be trying to air some live coverage or doing some coverage at games or at away games, or if I'm snowboarding or climbing a mountain somewhere, you'll be getting some footage there. So I'll be all over the place.
Now, if you're snowboarding or climbing a mountain, maybe we ought to get these other people ready to come in.
Yeah. I agree. You might not always see my face over here arguing with Bob, but I'm going to try to get here as much as possible.
Snowboarding and mountain climbing.
Yeah, I like to combine the two. I'm planning a trip down to Mount Katahdin. I went there last year, and I'm going to go with a snowboard this time and climb up Hamlin Peak, which is one of the peaks to the north. Wow. It's part of Mount Katahdin, and I got a couple college buddies going with me, and I'm going to document it and snowboard down the side.
Now, can you win this, or is it something you win or lose, or can you block the other guy or get in his way or anything like that?
I think that would probably result in some very dangerous situations if that happened. It's more of an independent goal of mine, and once you do something like that, it feels good.
Tom, would you like to go up with me and try to go down Mount Katahdin?
I don't think so, but I'd like to make a recommendation to Ryan that stay away from any mountain that has a avalanche warning.
That's true.
This week, people were lucky up on Mount Washington, Tuckerman Ravine.
That's why I'm going to be doing it in the springtime, where the snow's melting and it sticks together a lot easier, so it won't be as flaky and it's less prone for avalanches.
Yep.
So
none of our past participants of this program have ever given reports like this. Climbing up mountains, snowboarding, mountain climbing, this is going to be a revelation. You and I can just comment on it, Tom, or sort of be coaches or supervisors.
I think the closest one was, I guess, the skating girls there.
Yeah, the Rollerblades, the rollerblades,
roller derby,
Roller derby.
something like that.
Vacation Land Vixens. The
I
Vacation
kind of
Land
forgot
Vixens.
about them.
Yeah, well, I don't think you forgot about them because you talked to me about them before we started taping. Good report, Ryan.
Thank you.
Now, you have a feature? You're going right in with one of your features, Professor?
I do have a feature, and this is about. I've done some research on what we eat during the Super Bowl. And 30% of what we eat are chips and spreads or chips and dips. 22% is chicken wings. 17% is pizza. 14% chips, salty snacks. 4,000 tons of popcorn. 14,500 tons of potato chips. 9% burgers, dogs, and brats. Now that adds up to 92%. So I figured the other 8% of Americans are on a liquid diet during the Super Bowl.
Where did you get these numbers?
I've been, for the last 5 years doing this research. It's been quite a project for me. Okay. Actually, I came off the computer and my wife printed them off. Now,
would this roughly reflect what you yourself eat while watching these games?
It would be pretty close. I might be a little heavier on the chicken wings. And I figure, chicken wings, they're saying that we consume like 450 million of them. So that means there's 225 million chickens out there that can't fly.
Well, do you have anything else about the Patriots, about the Super Bowl?
I'm a little concerned about the Super Bowl being held on February 2nd.
Why is that?
I'm afraid that all the players will run out of the tunnel, take a look around, see the shadow, and go back in and say we're going to have 6 more weeks of winter.
So after tomorrow's semifinals, we got 2 weeks before the Super Bowl, right?
That's right. 2 weeks to lose a little weight.
Okay. Now, what I want to ask you is what's going to happen tomorrow?
I was afraid you'd ask me that, and I hate to go out on a limb and say we're going to have a battle of the birds in the Super Bowl, but I feel that the Falcons and the Ravens will be the teams.
Falcons and the Ravens. Anything else about the game?
I'll probably hide my head under, a bed of sand or something, but...
Why are you picking the Ravens?
I think they want it. Ray Lewis probably won't have his retirement party in Foxborough, even though I'd like to see him have it there.
Well, I'm gonna write this down. So the Ravens. Write this down. Ravens and Falcons. Okay.
What's the score gonna be?
On tomorrow?
Yeah.
Ravens by a field goal.
Ravens
again.
By 3. And Falcons?
By 20.
By 20. Okay. Is he right, Ryan?
I have no prediction in this. I just want Tommy to invite me over for some of his chicken wings for the game. Would that be all right?
You're an
Sure.
How in the world are you going to climb mountains and go snowboarding if you follow this preposterous nutritional intake?
Everyone has their stress foods and stuff, and I like to, be a glutton on Sundays.
Now, back to the food issue.
Yes, the real issue at hand.
One day a year we eat more food. Do
one
you
day a
guys
year
know
that
what
we eat
that
more
is?
food. Now, wait a minute.
Then the Super Bowl?
Yes.
Only one day we more Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
Yes.
That is correct.
Oh, okay.
We didn't even have to have Louis Benham call in on that one.
Lewis is going to call because he needs more T-shirts. We used to, Ryan, we did this before. We asked a trivia question and we had calls in, and we would give out T-shirts. And Lewis made a wardrobe of it.
Only a couple more facts that I came up with in my research.
Yeah.
That 6% of Americans will call in sick on the Monday after the Super Bowl.
Gee, I wonder why.
Wow. Now, is that 6% above normal or 6%?
There is an upside on this as far as I can figure. That means that our government operates at 94% efficiency the day after the Super Bowl.
That's more than they do most other days.
That's correct. So that's the upside. Now, the other thing is, and I don't understand this, but I think I figured it out, 54% of Americans will consume coffee the next morning. Does that mean that the other 46% is still drinking beer?
Or Allen's coffee brandy.
In Maine, that's probably a fact.
It was certainly an interesting sidelight to the game.
And that leads to the conclusion of my whole study.
Yes.
Is why they call it the Super Bowl.
And why is that?
Because the amount of water that is flushed down the toilet at halftime in the Super Bowl is equivalent to 350 million gallons. Water flowing over the American side of Niagara Falls is 150,000 gallons a second, which equivalates to 10 minutes of water flowing over the falls.
Now, do you draw any conclusions from this?
If they could haul all the water out of the Niagara River, we could see what the rocks look like underneath.
An interesting report.
Yes.
Is that your report?
That is it.
Why? Do you care? And you don't have any other insight into the game tomorrow other than your prediction?
Do I get a second chance?
Oh, sure.
I think the Patriots will win.
Oh, wait a minute. I got to change this here. You think the Patriots will win? Okay. And you think Patriots are going to win too, Ryan?
I think so.
How would you handicap the game? What's your thoughts on it?
How would I handicap the game?
Yeah. What are your thoughts on it? What leads you to your conclusion?
I think the team with the most amount of points at the end of the game will win. And
are you sure this is the man we want, John?
I grew up watching football as just watching teams hammer the heck out of each other. And so other than that, I've never been a big Patriots fan, but I know in the past 10 years they've had high caliber teams, and I know Gronkowski's out and everything, but I feel that as though Tom Brady usually makes the adjustment, and they'll usually find a way out through the thick and thin.
Well, first of all, with about 2-3 weeks to go in the season, it looked like they were not going to get a bye. They were behind both Denver and Houston. And then what was necessary in order for them to get a bye and then have home games was for Houston to lose 2 of their last 3 games and for Denver to lose at home. And those things happened. Denver losing in the playoffs last week to Baltimore gave them the home game, and Houston losing 2 out of their last 3 games gave them the home field. So even though 2 teams were ahead of them with 2 or 3 games to go, they ended up not having to leave their home field until the Super Bowl and not having to play a road game. So that was just very, very fortuitous. They certainly would have had a more difficult time at Denver than they're going to have with Baltimore at home, which isn't to say they're going to win tomorrow, but I think if they were playing Baltimore 10 times, they'd win 7 or 8. So it's been a very fortuitous route to the Super Bowl. Bye week and then 2 home games when it certainly didn't look like that's what was going to happen. They have had 2 things going for them consistently over the years, and that is their coach and their QB. And in pro football, those 2 positions, if you will, make a huge, huge difference. I came across an interesting fact in reading about it. Kraft bought this team in 1994. And up to that time, they had had some negative years just prior to that time, as you may remember. But since Kraft bought the team in 1994, and you're talking now about, what, 19 years, 18 years, the only team in any professional sport who's had a higher winning percentage is the San Antonio Spurs in the NBA, and that by a very, very narrow margin. So they have been the most successful pro team in all of our 4 major sports, which is really amazing. The National Football League is built to encourage parity. The team that finishes last gets the first draft pick, and in football it's a lot easier to figure out who's going to, all you got to do is look at Indianapolis with their first pick and what Luck's done, Washington getting the 2nd pick from St. Louis and what they've done with Griffin, and it can show you the importance of having a high draft choice. Indianapolis and Washington, both after being very, very down, were in the playoffs this year, and it was because they had the first 2 picks in the draft and the importance on the quarterback. So Brady and Belichick, and I think in pro football, the coach makes a bigger difference than maybe managers do in baseball and in some other teams. So they've been incredibly fortunate to have these guys, but the record run that they've had the last 17 or 18 years is really remarkable. salary caps, everything is pointed toward having parity, and they beat the system. They've absolutely beat the system. They've won their conference, I think, 9 out of the last 11 years. How many Super Bowls in the last decade? 4 or 5. They beat the system, and it's really remarkable. And I think they're going to beat Baltimore tomorrow. It wouldn't be a huge upset if they lost, but they are 9-point favorites, 8, 9-point favorites. And in a conference championship game, to be an 8 or 9-point favorite is a big spread. I think the San Francisco-Atlanta spread is 2 points. I think San Francisco is favored by 2, even though they're on the road. So I think they have a better chance of winning the game than losing it. They've got a big, big edge in their QB. It's going to be in Foxborough. They're home. You can't overrate the home field advantage, particularly in the playoffs. The first 2 weekends, 3 of the 4 home teams prevailed both weekends. It's going to be cold. There's going to be negative weather conditions, and I think there's a greater chance than not that they'll prevail. And that 9-point spread isn't. I wouldn't take Baltimore even if you gave me the 9.
I hate to make this comparison, but since Mr. Kraft has owned the team, I've kind of seen the Patriots become the New York Yankees of the NFL. Everyone wants to beat them, and kind of, I don't want to use the word, but everybody hates the Patriots because they're a winning team.
And I think that's a normal thing. And Belichick's personality is not particularly likable. At least that segment of his personality that's exposed to the public. He's rather dour and doesn't give any quotes out that are particularly popular or sexy. I guess the one main difference, though, is I think a lot of the bad feelings about the Yankees are that with no salary cap and with their ability to lure free agents, a lot of their success has been because they just have a lot more money to spend as opposed to their being smarter or doing a better job with what they have. They start out way ahead of the game, no salary cap, the budgets, and so forth. Whereas the Patriots have done it without those advantages.
Well, I think a lot of that is attributed to Belichick, who can, my feeling is, take a player and look at his outstanding ability. It may be only one thing, but he uses it to the utmost, and you can see it on the field every Sunday. He takes
players that have not been that particularly successful elsewhere, I should say, that have been cut, and they become key parts in a very, very successful operation. They deserve nothing but credit for having done what they've done. But you're right. I think a lot of people don't like anyone who's consistently successful and beats you every year. I don't know to what extent the Spygate thing 4 or 5 years ago, Belichick's personality buttresses that feeling, but I think that feeling does exist.
But you're absolutely correct. He doesn't give, in any interview you see of Belichick, he don't give anything away. He's to the point, just like nonchalant. He don't make any predictions, anything. We're going to play the game next week, and after that we'll play the next one.
Saw that one writer referred to his game day costume as Dickens Ragamuffin with the cutoff switch in the so and he gives very dour interviews as a dour. So all of those things contribute to probably some negative feelings around the league. They've just dominated that division. Just absolutely dominated that division and deserve a lot of credit. Could lose tomorrow, but I'd be surprised. Just to kick around a couple of things that are going on nationally, and I'd like to give your guys, get your guys' reaction to it. A lot of the big stories in the last 2 or 3 weeks nationally have been provided a field day for anyone who's a skeptic and skeptical. The biggest thing this past week has been the Monte Teo thing, the hoax that was perpetrated. It appears that there's very strong evidence that he knew about it the whole time. He apparently told his parents that he spent 3 weeks with this girl in Hawaii. He's told others that he was with her. Even after we know he knew about it on December 6th, he made public statements on both December 9th and December 11th, carrying on the hoax that he was with this girl. So there appears to be a lot of fault on his part. The other things which give fuel for anyone who's skeptical, 2 weeks ago we had the Hall of Fame voting, which was negative. This country in the late 90s was all excited about the home run duo between Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire, and now it appears we were all the victim of something artificially created there. The Lance Armstrong thing this week and all his trophies. So there's been a lot of things that are fuel for skeptics. What I wanted to ask you, Ryan, Sports Illustrated and other mainstream media went along with this T.O. story. Should there not have been a greater duty on the part of the media to investigate before reporting these things as facts?
I think in regard to that whole T.O. case, first of all, the whole case it's very bizarre and it's very confusing, but before anyone knew that this girlfriend of his was fake, it was a great story for any type of sports reporting to report on, as far as the Notre Dame winning and his success that he had with them. So I think that Sports Illustrated, when they first saw that and that the girlfriend died and then he had that amazing game, I think, oh, this is the story we've been looking for, and they just jumped on that. And they don't necessarily, reporting these days don't necessarily get all the facts first and think about it, then write the story. They, jump right on the story and then let's get it out there. And Deadspin was the one that broke the article about the girlfriend being fake and everything. And a lot of people think that he was part of this big elaborate hoax to get a lot of publicity for the whole Heisman award. So it's still being played out. More facts are coming to the surface, but right now I'm with everybody else, just waiting to see what the heck was going on in this guy's mind.
Well, I'm going to go back to my original question to you. I read 2 columns this week by journalism professors, which were highly critical of the media for not doing a better job of checking their facts before they reported them.
And a lot of the facts were fishy on the fact that I think the girlfriend died a day after or the same day as his grandmother, and that the girlfriend said, if I do die, I want you to be there playing the game and not go to my funeral, and other dubious facts that she survived this horrendous car accident and then was diagnosed with leukemia. So that should have been kind of warning lights from the get-go. But Sports Illustrated also has an obligation to report on things that are seemingly true, but I think that there was a lapse there because they didn't thoroughly investigate it.
Should they have?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
There was a failure on the part of our mainstream media to more closely check this thing before reporting it.
There's been a lot of failures in the mainstream media, and I think that it's mainstream media that thrives on sensationalism and getting the information out. We live in a very hyper-mediated society where we got to be the first with the information to get it out there for our ratings. And you see that is evident a lot in broadcast news, and not as much as in print journalism because you got to write the article first and put it through the editing process. So I think the culprits more are the television broadcasters that thrive on sensationalism.
Don't they have the same duty?
I think they have the same duty, but when it comes to making money, making revenue, and then their ratings, I think there's kind of a clash right there between professionalism and ratings. What
position should the university take? What position should the NCAA take?
I think they're waiting for the whole thing to play out right now. I read an article about it today, and one of the sports columnists from Chicago said that Notre Dame thrives on fantasy, and that they would have probably encouraged that type of story to take place.
Tribune writer, Sun-Times writer, Rick.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So if this was indeed a hoax just for the Heisman Award, then I think that repercussions should be in place. But as far as the failure of the media not to investigate it thoroughly, there probably was some. But on the other hand, what a great story.
What was your reaction to it, Tom?
I think it's probably based on, well, I hate to say it, but Inquirer type journalism. And in today's world with the technology we got, you can put that story online, you've got 90 million hits on it at the push of a button, instead of going down to the grocery store and paying 25 cents to buy the Inquirer. These guys saw, okay, we got something going here, let's keep it going. As Ryan said, the media grabbed it and ran with it. As far as, the reaction of the NCAA, probably this guy should be disqualified from anything, as we'll be talking about the Hall of Fame.
Why should it be the NCAA's business? Didn't give them a competitive advantage. Or for that matter, why should it be the school's business?
I guess somewhere along the line they got to get involved if they want to maintain their, you know, integrity, yeah, whatever with the American people. Then
I think given the amount of inquiries and the amount of steps that the NCAA has taken with regard to major football programs, it's a little bit late to worry about the integrity of these major football schools. Well, there was a couple other things that have been happening with regard to being a field day for skeptics. I've seen increasing stories, Ryan and Tom, about famous ball players now selling or offering for auction their most valuable player awards, different trophies that they've gotten, and so forth and so on.
Bloody socks.
Yeah. Is everything in this world for sale? Isn't there room for? It gives me a bad feeling.
You think some things are priceless? You're arguing.
I would think that there was a meaning if you were winning some award, a most valuable player, a best this, a best that, I don't know what. I saw Bob Cousy, the great Celtic player, was selling everything. First of all, these guys that are selling these things, you're not talking about people who are financially in trouble. You're talking about fairly wealthy people who made a lot of money. Is everything for sale? Isn't anything sacred? Shouldn't there be a value to an award beyond what someone will pay for it on an online auction? Let me tell you what I thought was a very, very sad story that just broke about 3 weeks ago. Most people probably didn't see it. Because of a class that I took a number of times at the University of Southern Maine on baseball, I was privileged to go twice with my class to the Field of Dreams in Dyersville, a little town in Iowa, which is in the middle of nowhere, literally a cornfield. And if you guys saw Field of Dreams, and I assume you did, this was the actual farm where it was shot. And it was a working farm. I was there 4 or 5 years ago. It's a working farm. But the lady and her husband who owned the farm kept it exactly as it was in the movie, and it was there for anyone who wanted to come and play ball. You could drive up there, drive your car up, get out of your car, and go out and play ball on the Field of Dreams. I did it. And there wasn't anything for sale. It wasn't a commercial endeavor. And we talked to the owner of the farm, and she said that she had been offered $10,000 to have a wedding there if she'd let him use the field for 2 hours. And the answer was no. We're not here to make money. We're here because if anyone wants to come and play ball on the Field of Dreams, it's here for people to come and play ball, and we kept it manicured. And she assured us that even after her death, that she had established a foundation to assure that the Field of Dreams would always be there at no cost for people to just come and play ball. I read 3 weeks ago an article which indicated that they have now sold it to a corporation who has brought in architects and planners and construction companies, and they're going to have a complex and rent it out and make a lot of money off it. And I thought that was a very sad story. It just seems that everything in life is for sale. Am I over dramatizing it?
I think the perception is everything is for sale because that's what we're reading about. But I still think that there are collectors, private collectors, and people and athletes that will always hold on to some of the more sacred valuables. That's a sad story about the whole Field of Dreams. For instance, I have my Uncle Herm was good friends with the Red Sox back in 1958. Ted Williams played then. And down in his basement, when he was my great uncle, he would have a whole bowl full of baseballs, not encased or anything like that, and they're all signed by former Red Sox. So one of my birthdays, I received a baseball autographed by all the 1959 Red Sox, including Ted Williams, all the managers, and he just gave it to me. He didn't sell it. He didn't want to sell it, and I still have that baseball. And I think I'm going to put it on eBay next week.
Just to first, one of the years that we went to the Field of Dreams, taking the class with us and on the bus was 3 generations. We had a young man who was a pitcher for the USM baseball team, undergraduate, pitched for their varsity team, and his father took the class, a man in his 40s, I guess, and his grandfather took the class. He was a man in his 70s. They were playing ball in the Field of Dreams, and I talked to the grandfather while he was there. He said, I've got my son and my grandson, and I'm playing ball in the Field of Dreams. He said, I could die now. There's nothing more to accomplish in life. And being an old fogey, as I've been correctly called, I get a little bit emotional about baseball, and I find this a very, very sad story. Everything's for sale. I don't know. Any other thoughts, Tom?
No, it is a sad thing, but I agree with Ryan. There's still a lot more stuff. There's still a lot more Heisman trophies out there that's sitting on someone's mantle that appreciates it being there, and they won it. And you know, we hear about O.J. Simpson selling his, this, that, the other.
There was that team. Wasn't there a team that sold their rings? And weren't there some repercussions brought against them?
I didn't catch that story, Ryan.
Okay, I think it was a college team that sold their championship rings.
I believe I read something about that. I forget who it was.
And then the school brought some repercussions against them, or tried to at least. So we read about these stories, and they are sad, and it does go on. But you know, there's always going to be Bill Russell with all his fingers lined with Celtics rings, and you'll probably always see them like that. So.
Well, just thought there were some things in life more important than money. The other national stories, I guess, which have been going on in the last few days, I don't know if either of you two guys are into it, but the National Hockey League starting tonight. The hockey, quote, work stoppage, unquote, is over. I always have trouble in sports talking about work stoppages because I don't think that playing ball is work, but be that as it may. They're going to start tonight. Damage to the industry? Hockey?
To the hockey industry?
Yeah.
There's always damage, and I think the most damage is to the fans.
Will it be reflected? Attendance, other things, sponsorships?
I couldn't care if I saw a
but we see the same things.
NHL game this year just because of what Ryan said. You know, they didn't care about me back in October when the season was supposed to start. They carried this labor thing back and forth between owners, players, whatever. They're acting like a bunch of, I won't say it.
Well, we've had stoppages in all of the other sports when they came back. You're a sports enthusiast like I am. Has it dimmed your enthusiasm? Has it kept you from watching or kept you from going, or did you come back? We've had stoppages in all of our major sports.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, you know, bringing the newspaper to the baseball game. If they've done something you don't like, you sit there and read the newspaper instead of watch them. And that's my feeling exactly. I could care less if I see an NHL game this year.
My own feelings is, as much as it disgusts me, I'm not going to cut off my nose to spite my face. I enjoy watching the games, and I'm going to watch the games. But I just wonder if the people that are making the decisions, and I'm talking about the Donald Fairs, the union heads, the agents, the lawyers, how much interest, who are really driving these strikes or lockouts and disagreements. It doesn't seem to me that these guys are worried about the future of the industry. And I don't care if it's basketball, baseball, football, hockey, because the long-term health of the industry, they're not going to be there when this happens. Donald Fair's not going to be there in 5 or 10 years. The lawyers, the agents, they're making their money and they're getting out, the union heads and so forth, and don't seem to have the interest in the long-term health of the industry. I don't know. Does it dim your enthusiasm when baseball goes out or when some other sport goes out?
As a fan of basketball, NBA, they had a lockout last year that lasted right up into December when it became Christmas, and people started saying, David Stearns, the commissioner, said, "Oh, I really think we should have a Christmas game. There's something magical about that." And so they brought back the season. It was a shortened season, and a lot of players had been not training, and you could see that for the first few weeks of the Celtics, but they eventually caught up, and it did affect their play. But as far as the shutouts go, who's to blame? Is it the players that demand more money? Is it the salary caps? Is it the commissioner? Is it who really is to blame at that? All we know as fans is that, well, there's not going to be any basketball until God knows when. So. You know, it's unfortunate for the fans, but are sports stars getting more greedy? Is that the question I want to ask you? Well,
first of all, the probably the most successful union in the United States has been the Major League Baseball Players Union, which absolutely controls baseball. And what Marvin Miller, who passed away about 2 months ago, has done more to change sports in this country than any single man. And what Marvin Miller did with baseball is carried over into the other sports. Oh, sure, the idea of a profession or an occupation, call it what you will, in which the average salary is $3 million, and you're being paid that for playing a kid's game, to be a member of a union, and a union representing men who are averaging $3 million a year is ridiculous, of course. But they've been very, very successful, and call it greed. The industries themselves are fantastically successful as far as the kind of money that's being brought in, the television money that's being brought in. Now with all the channels that we have and the competition among channels for inventory, if you will, is bringing in sums of money that couldn't be imagined. Did you, and I know we're talking about pro sports and the income, did you notice last year what Super Bowl ads, 30-second ads, are being sold for by the network, and they're sold out? What do you think a 30-second Super Bowl ad costs, Ryan? And they're sold out.
They're sold out now. You know, last time I checked, something like 20 to 40 million, right?
Well, 30-second ad is going for $4 million.
Oh, okay.
We're just talking about
the 30 seconds.
We're just talking about the 30 seconds.
Okay.
We're talking about the cost of producing the ad. So the sum of money that's coming in is just enormous, and it's just a matter of how it's going to be divided up. The union is very strong.
They also have a waiting list in case the Super Bowl goes into overtime of
really?
Advertisers that want to advertise.
And the fact that they sell out that quick and they have a waiting list is an indication that at $4 million for 30 seconds, it's underpriced. I mean, the amount of money that's coming in. Baseball, the Red Sox average ticket now is around $60 or $70. That's the average ticket. We're not talking about the high-priced seats. Still a waiting list for seats. And on the secondary market, they go for a lot more. You know, John Henry has said our tickets are underpriced. You can tell that by the secondary market, and he's right.
Because he's got a small stadium.
Well, as a matter of fact, he gets 38,000 now, and these new stadiums, Tommy, these new stadiums aren't seating much more than that. All of the new stadiums which have gone up in the last 20 years seat less than the stadiums they replaced, but they have the luxury boxes, they have the room to sell things, rooms for stores, conventions. A lot of them have darn near cities in the outfield. What the Red Sox did, which were amazing, is somehow got the city to give them Yawkey Way, formerly Jersey Street, and make it part of the stadium. You have to pass through a turnstile, so in effect that street is now part of the stadium. One more way to sell things, and other ways to sell things. So no, it's not the seating capacity, it is the luxury boxes.
It's also, I feel, a draw capacity, draw thing. You know, they're drawing from 6 states when you have, what, 4 Major League Baseball teams in the state of California?
Yeah.
You know, so how many people are going to go to a certain game at a certain time? You're going to fill Fenway Park every game.
Do you know what happens in 24 days from now?
Tell me, Bob.
Pitchers and catchers report.
We're almost there. It's almost summer. You ready for it, Tom?
I'm ready. I don't think the Red Sox are. I'd like to see a lot more moves this winter, but
you don't care for the move? They signed up some 6 free agents, appeared to fill a lot of needs.
Yeah, well, as long as we got one of those catchers that can pitch, I think we'll be all set.
So you're not pleased with everything they've done over there?
Not really, no.
Not confident of the coming season?
No, not really. I think Baltimore will be right back there again this year in the Eastern Division.
Are you a big baseball fan, Ryan?
I watched it on occasion when Mo Vaughn was the first baseman.
Who?
Didn't he retire?
I don't know.
No, he changed his name to Ortiz. I remember that.
Oh, right. That's correct. Right.
Well, it's only 24 days away, so we're almost there. So we're going to have a lot of things to talk about in coming weeks. I look forward to it. And look forward to the other people that are coming on.
One other thing I have done since we've been here in my Super Bowl facts, the fat grams derived from that 14,500 tons of potato chips.
Super Bowl menu?
Yes,
oh, I'm sorry.
And I just did a little math while I was sitting here. The fat grams consumed from that amount of potato chips equals in poundage to 14,000 grams.
I'm sorry, 14,000 what?
Grams.
No, that's not a unit of measure.
Weighs 265 pounds.
Have you had any formal training in nutrition?
I'm getting it. You know, keep looking at computer and doing my math.
I never did find out.
It's only taken me 5 years to do this.
So can we have this on the show every week now? Nickerson's nutrition report, and can we have calorie facts? Calorie
Probably
numbers?
not.
No.
No.
We never did delve into
Not
just
until
what
Thanksgiving again.
We never did delve into just what your professorship is in, what your training consists of, and how you acquire the name of professor. That's something we'll have to get in coming weeks. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Is that it for your report?
I spent, if you want to know where a lot of my education and where my information comes from, I spent a lot of time as a young man walking behind male bovines.
Wait a minute. Why?
Because that's where it all comes from. BS.
Well played. Well played.
Who was in favor of getting this guy back? I didn't know. We'll see you all next week. Thanks for watching.
Great to be back.